What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 5 best life staff builds in New World Aeternum that are optimized for both PvE and PvP. As I will cover a lot of builds, so not to spend too much time, for each setup I will give you a quick overview of its playstyle. Then as well I will explain the best skill tree setup, then what gear should you wear, then even how many attributes should you allocate for each stat, and much more. So moving over to the first build, which is the lifestaff and the rapier. This setup is a very mobile healer build with main focus on healing and having the option to survive multiple enemies at once. The rapier weapon is one of the best options for a healer, as it offers defenses and mobility with a lot of abilities to help escape enemies or reposition. If you're looking for a strong PvP and PvE build that uses the rapier and is pretty unkillable in 1v1s and small scale PvP, then here it is. So taking a closer look at the setup, and for the weight we have two options, to either way go with light or medium category. Both of the choices are really good, it just depends on what playstyle you prefer more. So going with light and having extreme mobility, or going with medium and sacrificing that a bit for more defense. I personally will take medium, but this won't really impact the performance if you choose either option. Next we have attributes, and we want to go with 25 strength, then from 400 to 450 focus, and 200 constitution. In this build our primary weapon is the lifestaff and healing, so we will focus most of our stats on that, while for the rapier we will use the Ember Arboreal gem to convert its damage to scale also from the focus. And mostly we will use the rapier for mobility, defense and high IQ plays, while then the lifestaff will be for everything else. And then finally we have the skill tree, and this is how it should look like for the lifestaff. So our main abilities are structured around some of the best AoE healing spells, so we can use this setup for every single content. And then again, this is how it should look like for the rapier. So then on the other hand, for the rapier, we went with the best defenses and mobility tools in the game, as the rapier is mainly a secondary weapon to assist and help the lifestaff to survive and outplay the enemy. If you're interested in the best gear, perks, consumables and everything else, then keep watching until the end of the video. And overall, if you're looking for super fun and one of the best healer builds in the game, then here it is. Next up we have the best healer build in the game, which is the lifestaff and the void gauntlet. So lifestaff is the primary healing weapon in the game, and we can decide to pair it up with the void gauntlet because of its ability to give us very strong debuffs and healing support. Since this build is designed for group PvE and PvP, so all of the healing abilities are focused around AoE healing and making sure that we can keep as many of our allies healed as possible. And the best part about this is that not only we will get insane amount of healing done, but also we'll be able to dish out some serious damage. So let's take a look at the build. For our gear choice we will go with the medium armor, as this will give us pretty good healing while at the same time giving us survivability in case we get in trouble. I personally think that if a healer dies, then it's GG, game over. So to prevent that, I'm fine with trading small amount of heals for much higher chance of survival. Then next we have the attributes, and we want to get 150 intelligence, then from 350 to 400 focus and 100 constitution. This particular point allocation is structured around increasing our healing as much as possible, while relatively doing quite a lot of damage and having bunch of defensives to survive hard fights, no matter if it's for PvE or PvP. And then finally we have our skill tree. So let's take a look at the most important skill tree setup for the lifestaff. And this is what we have. Our setup is built around AoE healing and increasing its bonuses and reducing mana cost as much as possible. Also, as we're using the best healing spells, so we will get both low and medium cooldown skills, so then we can use them for any scenario that we might find ourselves into. And then again, this is how it should look like for the void gauntlet. And this is the weapon that we will mainly use for DPS. So we focus more on healing and increasing not only ours but our team's damage as well. If you're interested in the best gear, perks, consumables and everything else, then keep watching until the end of the video. So overall, if you're looking for hands down the best and most powerful healer build, then this is it. So moving over to the next build, which is the lifestaff and the warhammer. This setup's main focus is on being a frontline healer that can get down and dirty, but also support his team. By using the Warhammer, we will be able to do big crowd control and AoV damage, while by using the life staff, we will have the ability to keep up and heal our main frontline tanks and other players that other ranged healers would not be able to reach. The Warhammer and life staff combination is very popular in wars and expeditions. However, it's been proven to be very strong in almost every single activity, as long as the player knows when to get in close and do damage and when to keep his distance. So let's take a look at our setup. For our gear choice, we will go with the medium category, as this will give us the perfect balance between defense and high healing output. I've also seen few players going full heavy, but that is more of a paladin build, where at that point you might as well go full sword and shield with the life staff and become a completely self-sustaining tank. Then next we have attributes, and we should get 50 strength, then 400 focus, and then also 200 constitution. I had a similar thought process for our stats as well, so we want to do damage, heal and survive at the same time, so the stats are in the perfect ratio against one another. Technically, you could move 25 points back and forth between the strength, but besides that, you definitely want to have this 2:1 ratio for focus versus constitution. And then on top of that, don't forget to equip the Amber Gem on your Warhammer, as we want it to scale now from focus rather than solely using our low strength. Then next we have the skill tree, and this is how it should look like for the Warhammer. So this specific layout was structured around using the best AoV skills in the game, so we can easily stun our enemies, then use our Path of Destiny and completely destroy them. And as our AoV range is quite big, so we want to use the skills for every single activity. And then again, this is how it should look like for the life staff. So this setup was purely made around keeping up our heals with the lowest cooldown spells, so we can spam them 24/7, while also having some AoV for our group or just ourselves. This setup has amazingly high heals and relatively high defense, so no matter if you're new or veteran player, this is one of the best builds which you can just pick up and play from the start. If you're interested in the best gear, perks, consumables and everything else, then keep watching until the end of the video. And overall, if you're looking for super fun and high damage and high defense build, then here it is. So, moving over to the next build, which is the life staff and the hatchet. This setup's main focus is on utilizing its mobility and self-sustain of the hatchet. While from the life staff you will get incredible amount of healing and range DPS. Most players like to use this build for speedrunning solo content and leveling, as this hatchet and life staff combo has so much healing and single target damage that you can easily solo bosses and any other content, and at least personally for me, I haven't ever used a healing potion or even died, because of how powerful this build is against PvE content. So let's take a look at our setup. For our gear choice, we will go with the medium category, as we are going to be mainly in close range, so we want to be tough enough to withstand hard enough fights, and not too heavy which would slow us down and prevent us from escaping the enemy attacks. In my opinion, 90% of all life staff builds should always wear medium, as it is the perfect balance which gives you high healing and good defense. Then next we have attributes, and we should get 50 strength, then 400 focus, and finally 200 constitution. Similar like other melee healer builds, we want to keep this 2:1 ratio if we compare focus against constitution. On top of this, we want to use the Amber Gem on our hatchet to convert its strength scaling to now scale with focus. Next up we have the skill tree, and this is how it should look like for the hatchet. So this specific layout was structured around using the best skill in the game, the Berserk mode, and then just buffing and supporting it with as many perks and other secondary skills as possible. Because of this setup we can do both, so be a melee bruiser or just use it as a last ditch survival tool. And then again, this is how it should look like for the life staff. So this is the best healer setup in the game, where we are using easily spammable skills with short cooldowns and healing ground, which we can just place, then switch to the hatchet and do big damage, while not even worrying about our HP going down. If you are interested in the best gear, perks, consumables and everything else, then keep watching until the end of the video. Overall, if you don't ever want to die, and if you're looking for the perfect solo player build to speedrun most of the PvE content, then here it is. Then next up we have the life staff with the Ice Gauntlet. As a healer, almost all weapons will work together. However, the flexibility and utilization for the Ice Gauntlet is unparalleled. For this setup I decided to pair the life staff with the Ice Gauntlet, because of its ability to give us some damage, tankiness, CC, and help with the mana restoration. Since this build is designed for group play, so all of our healing abilities are focused around healing an area, making sure that we can keep as many of our allies healed as possible. So let's take a look at our setup. For our gear choice, we will go with the light category, as this will give us 2 good dodge rolls and keep us moving, as we never want to stand still for too long. This is one of the rare scenarios where light armor is the best equipment load for the build, because it gives us the biggest increase to healing and damage, plus access to very strong dodge roll. Even though medium and heavy armor gives us more defense, the healing output and dodge roll iframe outweighs the raw damage mitigation. And as both of the weapons are ranged, so if we play smart, then we can easily mitigate this. Next we have attributes, and we should get 25 strength, then 25 dexterity, then from 150 to 200 intelligence, then 350 focus, and finally 100 constitution. With this setup we prioritize healing and damage output over survivability, which can make you very powerful in the right player hands. Then next up we have the skill tree, and this is how it should look like for the ice gauntlet. So in this build, this layout gives us incredible amounts of AoV damage, while also protecting us by giving us the ice shower, as it can be very devastating for the enemy team if they try to focus and get stuck in that thing. And then again, this is how it should look like for the live staff. So as we are going to focus more on dealing damage, so for this setup we went with more AoV healing skills that you can just throw on the ground and then forget about them, while you switch to the ice gauntlet and do big DPS. Overall, if you want to be the ultimate healer that can do a huge amount of DPS, then here you go. And then for the last and final part, let's take a look at the best gear, buffs and consumables that pretty much all builds could use. And remember that this is just an example. So as far as armor goes, of course slowly but surely, you want to get to 725 gear score. And for your medium or heavy armor, always use the all-pull gem on your gear. And if you can, then try to get these perks like health, refreshing and freedom. Then as far as your weapons go, use the diamond gem on all of your weapons, besides on the hatchet, rapier and the warhammer, as they need to use the amber gem to convert their damage to scale with the focus. And then for weapon perks, try to get refreshing move, fortifying sacred ground, or pretty much anything else that would increase our healing. Just make sure that you're using the specific skills, as some bonuses are combined with only few specific perks. And last but not least, for your rune, get the stone form, as it is very useful to use in both PvE and PvP, because it can save us from getting one-shotted, and dying as a healer is much more punishing for everyone, so definitely you want to invest into a good defense. And then for your consumables, you should already know what to do. So use honing stones for damage increase, use attribute food for plus 40 attribute stats, and also don't forget about the healing and regen potions, just in case if you get in trouble. And that's about it. So if you enjoyed this video, click like, subscribe and comment. If you're interested in more content, then check out my channel and I will see you in the next one. So take it easy, peace.